When you see both Margaret and Leon, tell them we said hello. Okay. Great having you with us from Central Texas. Okay, with all of the introductory remarks, we want to now begin with a prayer. I'm going to ask that Brother Phil Dixon, right where you are, if you would lead us in a prayer.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for all those assembled here. We ask a blessing on the class. Help us to apply all that is said throughout the class. Share with our friends and family. Be with those who wanted to be here but weren't able. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, to our class, we want you to know, this past Wednesday, what we did, we met and we divided up into our discovery groups, and in those groups, we introduced our platform to you that we will be using, our YouTube channel, to help facilitate continual learning beyond Sunday and Wednesday, and especially for those who may not be present in any given Wednesday or Sunday. How many of you should have received an email? We collected all emails. You should have received an email from the class indicating a direct link to the YouTube channel. If you received that email, raise your hand. Amen. That's impressive. So everybody got those. Now you will continue to receive those emails from week to week as the class is being posted there. So keep in mind that. Also, what we will be doing, we're introducing this month, next door, our interactive board that we will begin next month. Sister White's group is Determined Disciples will actually be responsible for the discovery of the month and posting that on our board. We'll be talking more about that as we this coming Wednesday. But we're running a little bit behind time, so I want to cover some ground this morning relating to our class. This morning, thank you. We are in chapter 1. We're studying as a class from the book Discovering God's Purpose as God's Love Bank. This is our class material that we're studying for this year. And we have already begun studying chapter 1 in the book. And in chapter 1, the very first thing that we begin to discuss in chapter 1 is understanding what it means, what God's purpose is. What God's purpose is. We've looked, the author defines God's purpose as God's original intent, and then end result equals purpose. God's original intent and end result is what purpose means. Everybody repeat that after me. God's original intent and end result equals purpose. Now this is going to be important to remember, because we'll continue to begin to make reference to that definition. We also learn, the author mentioned at the beginning of chapter 1, to understand that definition. We see that when God created all things, all creation, God, in Genesis chapter 1, we learned that when God said, let there be what? First thing, light, and then there was what? Light. So God said, and then he saw, and then it became so. God said, God saw, and then it became so. And then that which he saw, I'm going to come along later and add, he ended by saying it was what? Did he say very good? He said it was good. He went into that last creation before he came along. He said it was what? Very good. So everything that God created with a purpose, he always ended it by making the declaration that it was good. Now, we're going to also introduce another concept to understand the definition of God's purpose. What we're going to also find out is when God said a thing, that's where the creation process began. And in creation always starts with the unseen. And then in the unseen, there's a process of formation that takes place that ultimately ends up in manifestation. And so when it comes to understanding God's purpose, God's original intent, and the end result, this is the process by which it actually occurs. We later then, in the book, after he defines God's purpose, then he gives an illustration of a story in the book. And the story that he illustrates is that the story of the chicken or the eagle and the chicken story. And this particular metaphor is a really great metaphor for several reasons. And I want each one of us to know in class, it's important that you really dive into, like we've already begun, into this metaphor of the eagle and chicken, because we're going to make continual reference to this eagle chicken story, because it's a great illustration of contrasting a couple of things that are really important concepts in our study. First of all, we're going to continue to compare and contrast the eagle and chicken story, because it's a great metaphor for us to understand what new self-love is versus old self-love. And when we talk about the eagle in the story, we've already learned that the eagle represents being created after the image and the likeness of God. And then when we make reference to the chicken, we're always making reference to old self-love, which has been created by the false values of this world. And so throughout the entire book, we're always going to refer back to the eagle and the chicken story at various points throughout our study. So it's important for you to understand that. And so as we begin to explore this eagle and chicken story, we begin the next thing we did, we took a deep dive into the eagle chicken story, understanding that there are three aspects of the story. There were three video vignettes about the eagle chicken story that we saw in class, and those three vignettes should have also been sent to you in an email. Everybody get the email with the videos? Any person in the class who have not yet watched those three videos? If you have not watched the three videos, we encourage you to watch each one of the videos. What you also need to know is we will also continue to make reference to each one of those videos at various times, because these three aspects of the eagle and the chicken will always constantly, again, compare and contrast what it means to live in your old self and then what it means to actually live in the new self. Okay? Now, we learned the three aspects of the chicken story. The first aspect of the chicken story we learned is that there was the plight of the eagle, or the eagle. And the plight of the eagle is that he was an eagle and he found himself living in a chicken coop. And the problem with that is, the contrast between that is, innately, he was created by his creator as an eagle and not a chicken. And very much like we as human beings, and more specifically as Christians, when you don't understand your real identity, you'll find yourself being something other than what God created you to be. And what we also found, the plight of the eagle is this. The eagle found himself living in a chicken coop when he was not created nor designed to live in an environment of a chicken coop. That's why the Bible draws contrast to us as Christians in this regard. When you don't understand your true identity, and we're going to drill down on this in a minute, you'll find yourself as a Christian living like a chicken, living in an environment and a domain that you were never created to live in. That's why the Bible says we are in the world, but not of it. And that's the plight that the eagle found himself in. He found himself in a coop when he was not of the coop. Y'all didn't get that. He found himself in a coop when he was never really created nor designed to be of the cool. We find ourselves as Christians trying to live a life that we were never created to nor designed to live in. We're in the world, but we're not of the world. And when you don't realize the distinction between that, what will happen is you will live a frustrated, unfulfilled life. But not only did the eagle, that's the plight of the eagle, but also we learned in the second venue that there is the potential of the eagle that is lost when you don't understand who you really are, your true identity. And then, this last vignette has to do with the purpose of the eagle. And that's where we're going to be spending most of our time in our study. As we go on from this point on, we will be engaged in the process of discovering God's purpose for each one of our lives. Now, that being said, what we learned is identity, the average person still struggles with self-identity. And that's why most of us live as other people today. I'm talking about everybody in this room struggles still with our self-identity because most of us still find ourselves living as other people. Let me illustrate how that works. This morning, when you walk in here, most of us are wearing somebody else. How many of us, your purse, what's the latest purse, ladies, that ladies have today? They call, what's that latest? Michael Kors. Suits, latest suits. You might have on a Kenneth Cole or a Pierre Cardin suit. Your shoes that you're wearing are not just shoes of your own, but they're shoes with somebody else's name attached to them. What does all that indicate? Especially among our youth. I remember growing up in the city of St. Louis, and it was not uncommon for us as a youth actually to get into a fight and in some cases killed because of what you were wearing or not wearing. What does that indicate? That's a lack of identity. Parents of any kids, children of any age, what's your biggest struggle that you have throughout the course of the school year, especially at the beginning of the school? You can't just go shopping and shop at Walmart for your kids to go buy a pair of tennis shoes. Why is that? Because it gets back to this identity thing. They will have a fit. I was talking to my wife at the beginning of school. She was actually at the mall during the first week of school as we were approaching the first day of school. And the mom was there with her child. And she was just totally frustrated. I mean, literally at her wit's end because she's overhearing the conversation with this mother. And she had already been to 3 or 4 places trying to find the shoes that her particular child wanted. And she's at the 4th place. And she finally came to the point where she said something like this: I didn't have it. You're going to get whatever, if you don't find what you want right here, you ain't getting it. But what was the child really dealing with? Dealing with an identity thing. And not too much unlike the child. We as adults really struggle with the same thing. In terms of if the whole fashion industry is actually built upon the fact that we as a human race really are struggling and grappling with this whole notion of self-identity. And so they make billions of dollars predicated upon the fact that we don't feel good about ourselves. And so they will actually, in that sense, they will create through the personality of somebody else an image to you to make you want to model and actually pursue. And so therefore, when it comes to us grappling with this identity thing, it's important for us to, in terms of fulfilling God's purpose, understand our true identity. And the eagle and the chicken story represent a great contrast in helping us to really understand that on a really deep level. The other thing that we begin to talk about is that in the process of all of this, what we can understand is that we've lost our true self. We've lost a sense of our true self. Now, Jesus came along, the Bible says, in Luke chapter 19, verse 10, his main purpose for coming was what? To seek and to save. Y'all know the story. Y'all do. He came to seek and to save that which was what? He came to seek and to save that which was what? My question is, what was it that was lost? Us. What does that mean? Us being lost. What was lost about us that he came to seek and to save?
The soul is what was lost, and the soul is what needs to be saved.
Okay, and when we talk about the soul, what does that mean? The saving of the soul. What does it mean for the soul to be lost?
Well, that's what it's on that up is going over Romans chapter 7. Dealing with what Paul did, talking about the inner man.
Okay, we're talking, what is it about the inner man that was lost, that Jesus came to seek and to save? Brother Johnson. Okay, Brother Johnson is really driving to that point. When oftentimes we've read that scripture over and over and over again, Jesus came to seek and to save the lost, which we've identified as a person. But not really coming to the essence of what the person really is. He came to seek and to save that which is lost in terms of our identity. That's what was lost. Man having having lost the sense of who he really is. And we've learned from previous study, the first two books, we are what? We are a spirit. Man has lost all sense of what it means to be a spirit. Jesus came to seek and to save that which has been lost. We've lost the sense of our true identity. Thank you, Brother Williams. Now, why is that important? That's important because as long as a person doesn't know who they are, what they are, and where they came from, someone said that everything that they think they know will confuse them. Whenever a person doesn't know who they are, what they are, and where they came from, everything they think they know about anything will only confuse them. Even their purpose here in life. And that's why many persons, not knowing who they really are, have no clue in regards to why God gave them life and what their purpose is here in life. So, what we tried to illustrate last week was, in order for us to get in alignment with our purpose by understanding our true identity, we began to use an illustration this way. We use the illustration to try to illustrate that here is my cell phone. And when we understand God's purpose, and as it's defined in the book, we learned that God's purpose is what? God's purpose is what? God's original intent. And as end result, that's what purpose is. Okay, now, let's see how that plays out in a very real practical way. So when we know that when God created all things, even us, he created us with a purpose. And when he completed everything, all creation, with the exception of man, he made this statement. with everything else he created, he said after he created it that it was all good. But when he got to man, he went beyond that statement by expounding. Not only was it good, but when it came to man, God said this: it was very good. Now, we need to understand, in order to fulfill our purpose, we need to understand that everything, even the products that you buy, they come finished with a purpose. Before you purchase this item, this cell phone, it had already been completed in terms of its purpose. And the thing that you need to know is that every manufacturer, whenever a product is manufactured, it goes through a process, and the end of the process is when it's completed. Before you buy it, the last thing that the manufacturer does is it stamps this product with an image. Its image. That's the very last thing it does. It completes it. The end of the completed process ends with the manufacturer putting on that product its image. If you have an Apple iPhone, right now on your iPhone you have a symbol of an apple. If you have a laptop from Microsoft, you're going to have the image of a flag on it, okay? And what happens in that process, you got to keep in mind, before it gets to you, the last thing that the manufacturer does is that he puts his image on it. And it happens in every type of creation process, even your clothing. When it goes through the process of sewing, and then when it gets to the end of the line, before they put it on the truck and box it up, guess what they do? They put the tag on it in regards to the manufacturer or the image. That's the very last thing that happens in that process. Now, why am I saying all of that? What we need to know is that the same process works when it comes to God and His purpose for you and my life. God, last thing He does is puts His image on each one of you. But prior to that, God puts in you everything that you were designed to do before you got here. Now, again, when you buy this product, I mentioned last week, I brought this box. Now, when I went to the store and purchased this phone, when I opened it, because of a little book that's in the box, this book came with a bunch of promises in it, in terms of what this thing could do, okay? And when I opened the box and I began to actually function this phone, one of the promises of this book, one of the things that I know that this phone could do when I got it, when I purchased it, is that it can make phone calls. Now the question is, how did I know that? How did they know that? Another thing that this book promised that this phone could do, not only did it make phone calls, but it can also connect to the internet. And when I turned the phone on, I didn't have to question whether or not it had the capabilities or the ability to perform those functions. Now the question is, how did they know that? That this phone would make a phone, that this phone had the capacity of making a phone call when you turn it on? How did it know that it had the capacity of connecting to the internet when the end user started to use the product? How did they know? How did they know? They created it, but how did they know that it would work? Everybody said it was tested. It was tested before it got here. That's why they know. And by having it tested before it arrived, it removed all question or doubt in regards to the capacity of what this product is able to do. Now here's the thing, if you can understand that, here's what you need to understand about yourself. And this is really critically important. Every function that this product is able to do was already put in the product before it arrived. Okay. It was finished. It was finished. Now here's the thing that you need to know about yourself. And this is the thing that was lost. And Jesus came to seek and to save that which was lost. To restore to you and me what it was that God had in mind before you and I ever showed up. And the fact that we showed up is an indice that we didn't show up to begin, but we showed up as a result of us being finished. You didn't come here to find a purpose. You and I came here with a purpose. And our whole class is designed, our whole process is designed for, that's why it's called discovering what it is that God has already finished. Y'all act like y'all ain't getting it. If y'all get it, somebody should be saying amen. Okay. Now let me go a little further. This is, and so many of us are yet, we're still carrying the habits, the tendencies, not of the evil, but we're still living out the characteristics as if though we are in the chicken coop. Like, let me give you an illustration of what I'm saying. How many of you remember about 20 years ago, the VCR that came out? Y'all remember the VCR? That was big technology back then, wasn't it? I remember I got it. And that VCR, when it came out, it actually came equipped with about 22 to 24 functions. 22 to 24 functions. But if you were like me, and I think most of you all were, some of y'all were too young for for the VCR. But that VCR had about 22, 24 functions, and most of us, I know me, only use 4. Play, pause, stop, and play, pause, stop, and rewind. 4 functions. It came, however, with 22. Never did use the other 22. Here's what I'm saying to us. God is just like this phone. You know this phone has probably about 400 functions to it? About 400 functions. And many of us only use, depending on what generation you're in. I mean, just really depending on what generation you're in. Depending on what generation you're in, you're going to use 1 or 2. You're going to use to make a call and hang up. Okay, but it came equipped with about 400 functions. And when by not utilizing all of the functions that it came with, we often say in the church, we use this expression, man, I'm living beneath my privilege. Yeah, y'all ever heard church folks say that? You're living beneath your privilege, and that's the truth. I'm sitting here with a device that has 400 functions, and I'm only operating on the 3 or the 2 functions. I am really living far beneath the privilege that I could otherwise be living. Now, the same thing is true when it comes to our relationship with God. God has endowed you. You've already came equipped with. When this phone was manufactured, guess what didn't happen? I didn't buy it, and then later on try to put the functions to it. We didn't buy it, and then try to add the features of texting and camera. It all came with it. And so what you need to understand is, when we begin to discover how God what it really means to be created in the image and likeness of God, we haven't even scratched the surface in terms of living to the capacity of what that idea, what that reality is. Living in our new self, we haven't even begun to, life is good for a lot of us. But some of us have just settled for good. And the author talks about settling for good at the expense of what? Settling for that which is right. We'll be talking about that. Some of us, we're settling for good, and God has created us with the capacity and the purpose of having a life far more fulfilling than what we are actually experiencing. It's just like with this phone. Many of us could be enjoying many more benefits from this phone, and this phone has actually come with it, and yet we are living, or as we say as church folk, we have come to a place where we are living far beneath our privilege. Everybody say, y'all get that point? And so, the eagle and the chicken story is a great metaphor to help us to continue to compare and contrast what it really means to live in our new self and to live in the old self. And I'm going to end with this thought. The thing that we will all be confronted with in this process of teaching is the rebirth of this eagle. And if we remember the video venue that this, what was communicated here, each one of us will end up making a choice or decision about our life. And here's the choice and the decision. We learned that the eagle typically has a lifespan of about 40 years, normal lifespan. But yet, it has the capacity to live a life 30 years beyond his normal life. But in order to experience the life above and beyond, he had to make a choice. And the choice that the eagle had to make will be the same choice that you and I will end up having to make to determine whether or not we live the type of life that Jesus talked about in John chapter 10, verse 10. I came that you might have life, but just not life. Some of us will experience life, but not just life, but have it more what? Abundantly. Some of us will not experience that abundance. Some of us will just settle for the four functions of the cell phone when it has the capacity of actually 300 to 400 functions. We'll be real comfortable with just operating in the four. So you would have experienced life, but what you would have missed out on is that life that is more abundant that he's talking about. And here's the decision. Here's what it really boils down to. You got to understand if you're willing to go through the painful process of dying to those things, to that old self. If you have come to be satisfied with the results of living in your own self, or you are willing to change or to embrace and accept that I'm willing to change. I'm no longer going to settle just for living life as it is now. I don't care what season you are. And if you're still living, irregardless of how old you are, the fact that you're living is an indice that God still has something for you to do while you live. He has a purpose for it. And our journey in this class will again be a journey of discovering what it is that God is doing, wanting to do with my life right now, and discovering what it is that he's already put in me. I'm going to leave with this notion. Here is the things for us as a class that you need to know that's already in you. You ain't got it doesn't have to be put in you, but it's already in you. In living a new self life. Did you not know what's already in you? You came prepared, equipped with new self honesty, new self courage, new self forgiveness, new self excellence, new self power, new self discipline, new self love. All of those are already in you right now. It's a matter of just activating that which is already, so we don't have to, it's not a matter of having the work to do it. It has more to do with understanding who you already are and what your new self, what that really means. And so, any questions before we dismiss? Before we dismiss, I want to take a moment. It's good to have in our presence this morning both Brother and Sister Roach. Raise your hand. The author of the material that we actually are studying. And we thank God, Brother Roach, for your labors and being blessed in the process of those labors. All right? We're going to ask that Brother, who opened us in prayer? Brother Dixon did? Brother Mallett, if you lead us in the dismissal prayer, then we'll be prepared to go to our classes.
Let us pray. Father, thank you so much for the reminder of who we are in you, Father. Is that how, just like the cell phone products that we wear and use are branded with an image, God, we've been branded with your image, Father, and the Holy Spirit in our lives, Father. We would pray, Father, that as a class, as we are discovering your purpose for our lives, that we boldly go through this process, Father, allow that testing period to truly train us and show us who we are in you, Father. And that when we are seen and when we're shown your purpose, Father, that we boldly approach it, Father, and asking for forgiveness areas where we may have fallen short, Father, and receive your forgiveness. God, we love you for this avenue to be able to worship you in spirit and truth as the body of Christ. We give you all the honor and all the praise. It's in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Just a couple of reminders, class. Wednesday, we were here because of First Sunday. We will be meeting back in our multi-purpose center on Wednesday. And be on the lookout for your email and keep up with that. Thank you.